How to dry and store herbs from your garden. Growing herbs in your garden is rewarding, but knowing how to dry and store them properly can extend their shelf life and keep their flavors intact. By drying and storing herbs the right way, you can enjoy your fresh garden flavors all year long. Let's walk through the steps of drying and storing herbs so that you can make the most out of your harvest. Harvesting herbs from your garden is just the first step in enjoying their flavors year-round. Drying and storing herbs properly ensures that they retain their natural oils, flavors, and aromas. With the right methods, you can keep your homegrown herbs fresh for months. The first step in drying herbs is to choose the right time to harvest. The best time to pick herbs is in the morning, after the dew has dried but before the sun is too hot. This is when the essential oils in the leaves are most concentrated, giving the herbs their strongest flavor. Harvest the herbs when they're at their peak, before they start to flower. Flowers can change the taste of herbs, making them less desirable for drying. Cut the stems of the herbs you plan to dry using sharp scissors or garden shears. It's better to cut more than you think you'll need since drying reduces the volume of herbs. Always cut the stems about 4 to 6 inches long, making sure to avoid cutting too much of the plant at once, as this can harm its growth. After cutting, remove any damaged or discolored leaves. This will ensure that only healthy, vibrant leaves are dried. Now that you've harvested your herbs, it's time to choose a drying method. There are several ways to dry herbs, and each method depends on the type of herb and the available space. One of the most popular and simple methods is air drying. To air dry herbs, gather the cut stems into small bunches. Tie the bunches together using a piece of twine or string. Hang the bunches upside down in a warm, dry area that is well ventilated. Choose a location out of direct sunlight, as prolonged exposure to sunlight can cause the herbs to lose their color and flavor. A closet, attic, or a dry room in your house works well for air drying. Make sure the herbs are hung where they won't be disturbed or touched. Air drying can take anywhere from several days to a few weeks, depending on the size of the bunch and the humidity levels in your home. Another method is using a food dehydrator. A food dehydrator is an efficient way to dry herbs quickly and evenly. To use this method, simply place the individual herb leaves on the dehydrator trays, ensuring they are spaced apart for good airflow. Set the dehydrator to a low temperature, usually between 95 degrees Fahrenheit and 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and check the herbs every couple of hours until they are fully dried. This process typically takes between 2 to 4 hours. The advantage of using a dehydrator is that it preserves more of the flavor and color of the herbs and is faster than air drying. For herbs like basil or mint, you can also use an oven to dry them. To dry herbs in the oven, preheat the oven to its lowest setting, usually around 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Lay the herbs in a single layer on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. Place the sheet in the oven with the door slightly ajar to allow moisture to escape. Check the herbs every 10 minutes to avoid overheating. This method can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the moisture content of the herbs and the oven's temperature. Once the herbs are dry, it's time to store them properly. Proper storage is essential to keeping your dried herbs flavorful for months. The most important factor in storage is to keep the herbs in airtight containers to prevent exposure to moisture, which can lead to mold. Glass jars, vacuum-sealed bags, or airtight containers with tight-fitting lids work well for storing dried herbs. If you are storing larger quantities, consider using mason jars or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. Label the containers with the type of herb and the date of drying so you can easily identify them later. Dried herbs should be stored in a cool, dark place to preserve their flavor. A pantry or cabinet away from heat and light is ideal. Avoid storing herbs near the stove, oven, or windows where they could be exposed to heat and light, which can degrade their quality. When storing dried herbs, remember that herbs with high moisture content, like basil, thyme, or rosemary, retain more flavor when stored properly in smaller amounts. Herbs like oregano or parsley can be stored in larger quantities since they tend to keep their flavor longer. For maximum flavor, try to use dried herbs within a year of harvesting. Over time, their essential oils break down and the flavor becomes weaker. When using dried herbs, crush or crumble them right before use to release their oils and enhance the flavor. It's best to store whole leaves rather than crushing them before storage, as crushing exposes the oils to air and can cause them to lose flavor more quickly. If you want to keep the herbs fresh for longer, consider freezing them instead of drying. Freezing is a great option for herbs like basil or cilantro, which lose their flavor when dried. To freeze herbs, wash and dry them thoroughly, Then chop them into small pieces. You can freeze them in ice cube trays with water or oil, which makes it easy to pop out individual portions as needed. Frozen herbs retain much of their fresh flavor and are convenient for use in cooking. One common mistake when drying herbs is not ensuring they are completely dry before storing them. Moisture left in the herbs can cause mold to develop, ruining the batch. Before storing, check the herbs to make sure they're crisp and brittle. If they are still pliable, they need more drying time. Properly dried and stored herbs can last for months and even up to a year. The key is to dry them quickly, store them in airtight containers, and keep them in a cool, dark place. Drying and storing herbs is a simple and rewarding process that allows you to enjoy your garden harvest long after the growing season has ended. Whether you choose to air dry, use a dehydrator, or freeze your herbs, following these methods will help you preserve their flavor for use in cooking, teas, and homemade remedies. If you have any tips for drying or storing herbs, or if you've tried different methods, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more gardening tips.